I was talking to my friend last night.
Yeah.
About my friend who had a wild night. We went out last night and it got a little hectic.
Nice.
But we did talk about the scariest childhood commercials from when we were kids. And she was telling me, she's from Montana, and she was telling me they used to have this thing called Meth Montana.
Meth Montana? what is that?
And there are these commercials to warn against using meth.
Okay.
And they were really scary. And she showed me one. She pulled one up on YouTube and they're terrifying. And it's this girl, she's in a bathtub and she's like, she's like showering or something. And she looks down and then she sees herself in the bathtub, like crying and like bleeding. And it's all about how meth was such a problem. And so they're trying to, show these to these kids. But she said these videos used to traumatize her as a child because they would play them in school, these Meth Montana commercials about warning against meth. And I was saying that there was 2 commercials that really stood out to me as a child that I think we're talking about, like, things that influence you as a child.
Yeah.
These full on had an effect on my psyche.
Really?
There's 2 of them. The first one is there was this PSA they used to show on the TV, and I've tried to find it online and I cannot find it. And I want to find it just for my own mental health. But it was about locking your windows. And the PSA shows a guy going into he climbs in through a second floor window. So obviously he's climbed up someone's front of the house. And he goes into a second floor window and he takes a baby out of a bassinet. And he's wearing all black and a hoodie.
Yeah.
And he crawls back through the window with the baby. And it was about, lock your windows or like put window guards on. And that traumatized me as a child. Because I went through a phase where I was terrified of being kidnapped.
Yeah.
I was convinced I was going to get kidnapped. And my dad would always say, two things. First of all, if they kidnapped you, they give you back. Ha ha ha. Because I was annoying. And then
he's like, they give you back, Meriel.
Yeah,
they just borrow you for a little bit.
They give you back. And then 2, he go, we're not rich enough to have a ransom, so they're not going to kidnap you. Like that was a way of calming me down. Was like, we don't have a ransom, so they're not going to bother. And 2, you're annoying, so they give you back.
Wow.
Right?
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Dad. So I had this whole thing about being scared of kidnapped, and it was probably because of that commercial.
Wow.
I used to have dreams about being kidnapped.
Wow.
And then the second thing, and I remember this from high school, we were shown a video in health class, and it was a cartoon, and it was this boy, teenage boy, and he got given a pet dog for Christmas.
Yeah.
And he also started smoking. Right, he learned like what a cigarette was, and so every day he would take his dog to the park, and he would hide in the bushes, and he would have a cigarette. And his parents were like, "Oh, he's so good. He walks his dog every day. What a nice boy." And then his dog got cancer from secondhand smoke and died. And the
what?
PSA was to warn you about the dangers of secondhand smoking because it doesn't just affect you; it affects everyone around you. So the whole cartoon was this boy with his dog, and he killed his dog by always smoking with his dog. And that was the video they showed us in school to warn us about cigarettes.
Wow. That's dark.
And I still remember him like crouching in the bushes, the cartoon of him crouching in the bushes, smoking a cigarette. And then it cut to, a grave site and an RIP. And he was like sobbing at the grave.
Oh my God.
Sorry. This was when I was maybe 13 or 14. They showed this in school.
I'll tell you my darkest fear as a kid.
Oh.
I had one very, very specific
I had
fear.
some weird ones, so this will be good.
There was this movie, all right, this animated movie.
What's his name?
Called Nemo and the Flying Squirrel. I don't know if you've ever seen this. Yeah, no one ever has seen this apparently, except me. So Nemo and the Flying Squirrel was this, it was kind of like the Toaster Adventures kind of thing. Do you remember these movies?
Adventures?
And Ansel the Mouse Adventure, that like Spielberg movie.
I don't think.
It was a Spielberg movie, right? It was the mouse that like goes to New York City.
No.
The animated is kind of, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Never heard of
it's
it.
kind of like Anastasia era. Yeah. So there was this, I think it may have been a competitor to Disney, but it was this animated movie called Nemo and the Flying Squirrel, right? And it had this like Neptune-esque kingly father figure, almost like the Western classic version of seeing God, right? Like white beard, Zeus-like,
right?
But, had like a Neptune crown, was kind of this like sea person with a trident.
Ooh.
And the thing that scared me the most was so unusual, Meriel. It was like they released this darkness, this blackness, this like muck. It was almost like Fern Gully muck, right?
Yeah.
Where the smoke and the darkness had like a.
Yes, by it was Tim Curry.
It was Tim Curry. Yeah.
So good.
So this muck stuff, it was kind of like tar, and it would capture him, and it would crawl up his body, right? And in this movie, he's like crying. You know, he's like sacrificed. This whole family is like trying to reach out to save their father figure, and this thing just crawls up and completely encapsulates it.
Oh, that's
and just
horrid.
shuts him closed and kills him, murders him.
Oh my gosh.
And so as a kid, I was so terrified of this scene in the movie. Like,
I don't blame you.
it was completely irrational.
It sounds like in the Never-Ending Story when the horse gets stuck in the quicksand and sinks.
Wait, what happened there?
You've never seen the Never-Ending Story?
Yeah, I have.
The horse, Ajax.
Atreyu?
Oh,
No, Atreyu's the main character.
Ajax, I think it is, right? Yeah, Ajax.
Ajax, okay.
Or like A something, and he's like, "Please move," and he's sinking in the quicksand, and this boy's crying, and he's like, "Get out, get out!" And the horse just goes, and I would cry,
Wow,
cry, and cry in that scene. Yeah, that's scary. I don't blame you for being afraid of that. That's terrifying.
Yeah, it was like a weird thing. You know, it was just a special reaction that I had to this one particular movie.
I had weird fears. Like, I was convinced that witches lived in my closet, in my bedroom.
Like good
closet.
witches or bad witches?
Like bad witches.
So like hocus pocus witches.
Like scary witches, like child-eating witches.
Ooh, yeah.
Probably because I watched The Witches, the Roald Dahl movie, which was terrifying, by the way.
Right.
Have you ever seen it?
A long time ago.
Angelica Houston?
Yeah.
Terrifying. So my parents told me that if I clapped, like that would get rid of the witches.
Really?
And they also had a broom that they would like sweep around my closet. I was a very anxious child. My mental health problems started very early. I just didn't realize it. So they would sweep my closet with this broom.